Welcome, Gemini, to your in-depth monthly horoscope for September 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some standout details to look out for, but please stay with me. I will explore in much greater depth all the ins and outs, particularly relevant to your sign. Now, we have to always be conscious of the role of your ruling planet of Mercury. And as this month begins, Mercury is pretty close to the Sun in the part of your situation to do with your home, your emotions, your thinking around your environment, but of course it is still in retrograde. But despite this, it does come into an amazing connection with the Sun on the 6th, so I can't wait to share that with you. It is also going to go direct on the 15th, which is exciting. It also starts this month in a scintillating angle with Uranus, the planet which has perhaps been causing some issues over the last few years in terms of excessive nervous energy, perhaps making it more difficult to sleep. But it forges a great link to Mercury at the start of the month, but also as the month comes to a close. But also on the 25th, we have the autumnal equinox, and this ushers the Sun into the sign of Libra, which is your sister air sign. And this cardinal quadrant over the next 13 weeks, therefore, is very much about relationships for us all collectively, but for you, where you can express your talent. So much to share with you. I'd just like to share with you a very special opportunity. Year 2023 is speeding by, and year 24 racing towards us. If you order your year 2024 personal horoscope forecast now, based on your unique birth data, I'll provide for you the rest of year 2023 free of charge, but also my special package of 30% off. You'll get your character analysis report, your life roadmap, which will give you searing insights of the patterns that have played out so far, but also help you to get a much more intimate understanding of how to work with these energies. Please see the link below for more. And also, I'd just like to flag up to you that underneath this video, you can see your year 2024 free zodiac horoscope video forecast. So Gemini, as you make your way into September, as ever, there are contrasts with the Sun and Mercury in the tender protective 4th house. And obviously with Mercury retrograde, you may well, and this may have been a feature of the last week of August, you may well be thinking a lot about your emotional life, your connections, family dynamics, about where you live. You could be revisiting quite a few areas around those strands, but also because Uranus is forging such an engaging link with Mercury, a moment of inspiration can help you to look at a more complex or sensitive issue in a different and more illuminated way. However, if you are someone who really wants to demonstrate your talents this month, Mars is certainly going to help you, and also is Venus, because on the 4th, Venus ends a 42-day retrograde in the sign of Leo, and they are going to combine from the 12th through to the 30th in an absolutely stunning sextile. Now, because Mars is in the sign of relating in Libra, technically detrimented, for you this combination means that you can be very persuasive, but also fun. It's just that in week 1, another influence which comes from Saturn towards Mars means that if you're trying to impress someone in a position of influence who's a bit more of a stickler for tradition, if you're presenting something which is more innovative, don't necessarily expect them to get it first time around. Now, ironically, also on the 4th, Jupiter, the greater benefit to Venus's lesser benefit, goes into a retrograde as Venus ends its. And Jupiter is retrograde right through to the end of the year. But Jupiter in your 12th house retrograde can just enrich that part of your nature that is trying to access a higher spiritual value. So if you're really into personal development work and you're trying to tune in to some frequencies that really help to uplift your life in a really incredible way, Jupiter's retrograde can add an asset to download more knowledge, more ways of looking at things from a psychological perspective that complements your quick wits and your sharp personality, which are so beautifully complemented by that Venus-Mars sextile from the 12th through to the 30th. So Gemini, that very special moment that occurs on the 6th that I mentioned before, is the Cazimi, the Mercury Cazimi. And this one, an inferior Cazimi, because Mercury is retrograde, so Mercury is this side of the Sun as we view it from Earth. And this really gives you an opportunity, together with that very enlivening energy of Uranus, to just see something with much greater clarity, because when the Sun applies to Mercury in this way, it magnifies the magnificence of Mercury, but just asking you to look at things in terms of your internal world, in terms of your emotion, but also think about the structures in your life as far as your domestic situation, where you live, or if you do perhaps work from home, and just also think about your environment, but you'll be able to do all of these things in a much sharper way. But if you do meet someone and you're attracted to them from a romantic viewpoint, I still feel that until Mercury goes direct on the 15th, but it doesn't go out of its post-retrograde shadow to the 30th, you're going to be looking more than in the past for someone who can perhaps tune in to how you're feeling. It's not just going to be the razzle-dazzle. You know, you can be very funny, quick-witted, engaging, but then you can lose interest. And it may be that what's developing with the role of Uranus and Jupiter in your 12th house is a greater need for substance, a deeper psychological connection. And that may be something you can get, both elements of that, as this month goes on. Ironically, Venus and Jupiter are actually in a square for the first 3 weeks of this month. Is it possible that someone from your past is going to be in touch? I don't think it would be a complete no-no, to be honest. Jupiter in retrograde in the 12th, the past, things happening out of sight, and Venus going direct on the 4th, maybe. Or maybe you're just going to go through an old relationship and review it in a different way. Jupiter's about knowledge. And also in terms of business, Venus can be, in its engagement with Jupiter, about money. So your idea sector can be inspirational, but again, just like with Uranus, perhaps a past skill, contact, or experience that you've had can now come into your present situation in a very valuable way. But the 15th is definitely a key day for this month, because Mercury ends the retrograde, as I mentioned, but also we do have the new moon, which occurs in your 4th house of the home and family, and that is also forging a fantastic link to Uranus. So thinking outside the box, but in your case being prepared to access the more psychological side of yourself and life, is really a big theme of this month, with Uranus applying to your ruler Mercury, then the new moon, and then at the end of the month to Mercury again, because Uranus itself is in a retrograde and Mercury is starting to step forward. So that's why the trine between Mercury and Uranus is repeated twice. But on the 21st, the Sun reaches an exact angle with Pluto, which is very much to do with transformation. Because this month could be a little bit psychological as well as having those very engaging moments, this suggests that a deeper part of your nature that may have been shifting over some time can take another big step forwards. Maybe there's going to be something physical in your world that changes. Maybe it is more to do with how you feel about things. But then the Sun emerges on the 25th with the autumnal equinox into Libra. And this complements the position of Mars and really can see you wanting to dazzle people and be more outgoing. So whereas at times up until then in the month, you may just want some moments of reflection and seclusion, even if there are moments of engagement, from the 25th, you're much more up for mixing and mingling. However, the 29th does see the full moon. So this is in the sign of Aries, which for you is about friendships. Is someone going to make a sudden demand on your time? Are you going to have to manage your commitments a little more astutely? Is there going to be a romantic development that happens quite quickly? The reason I ask that rhetorically, if you like, is because Venus squares up with Uranus on the 29th exactly. So I think there could be some drama, a sudden invitation for a date, maybe some tension in an existing relationship which isn't going quite as you want. But as Mercury ends its post-retrograde shadow as the month comes to a close, that's definitely a very, very good thing for you personally. So this is a month which really does have some opportunities threaded through it for you, Gemini, but it is asking you to get more in touch with the psychological, spiritual and emotional parts of your nature. And that can be something you resist because your default can be to work through your mind, your sense of humour and your quick wits. But actually, the more you can engage with those, the more you can then embrace the fun and social and perhaps romantic side of life. But you're coming from a point where you're more joined up, more connected with the deeper part of yourself, and therefore have a much greater chance of really enjoying those encounters or finding what you truly need. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Please do like, comment, share or subscribe.